Hi, English 1302 peeps. I want to talk with you very briefly about how to use sources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you look at my computer screen, and we're going to look at a source that I'm looking at right now. So before we get started, just remember a couple of basics. If I got an idea from somewhere, even if I don't quote from it verbatim or word per word, I still need to document this in some way. And so the source that we're looking at, by the way, is an article by a young man named Armand St. Pierre. There's the title. I won't read it out loud to you as well. And he is an engineering student who was a good writer who wound up tutoring engineering students in writing at Hofstra University. And they wrote a really pretty interesting article about this. It's very useful about ways to help engineering students with writing. But I want to just focus on this one paragraph here. To better understand how tutors can help engineering clients with their writing, I set out to investigate the rhetorical features of engineering writing and engineering identities and analyze them using both my experience as a writer, tutor, and an engineering student. And so this comes from page 57. Remember, the author's name is St. Pierre, and it came from page 57 as well. So right now, I'm just going to highlight and cut and paste this as well. And we'll talk about some different ways that we can play this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get into Word. And I'm just going to dump this quote in right there as well. I'm going to just remind myself that these are his words so I don't wind up accidentally plagiarizing, which means putting somebody else's words or passing somebody else's words off as mine. So the thing about MLA is you get rid of the period, and remember it's on page 57, so the period goes after the in-text citation. Now, this isn't a great quote, it's not a terrible quote. So I could do three things. I could paraphrase, meaning I could put it into my own words. I could quote directly, or I could quote part of it. So, Robert St. Pierre wrote about his experiences tutoring engineering students I think he wanted to find out about. Now I'm going to do it two ways. The rhetorical features and the identities of engineering writing and the identities writers had to assume when learning to write like engineers. And I put 57. Why do I put 57? Because St. Pierre's name is there, so all I need is the page number, because we already got the author's name. Now, if I couldn't fit his name in there gracefully, one writer discussed his educational, blah, blah. The author's name's not there, so I'd put St. Pierre there. And so that's a direct quotation. I got this idea from this source. These words are his, so I'm going to quote them as well. Now, when do you quote? When you can't say it any better yourself. A lot of times you're going to read a source and it's going to maybe be verbose, or it's going to be using big language or something like that. And you might find out, hey, wait a minute, I can say this better myself. And so, could we put this in our own words? One writer discusses experiences. I guess I need to fix that. With engineering students, you want to find out the rhetorical features. Wanted to find out uh, how engineers for audiences should be another way, or engineering audiences, which is another way to say rhetorical features, and how these students learn to model engineering behavior. Okay, so I put it in my own words. None of these words come verbatim from this article, which we've been looking at, but it's still clearly his idea. So, Saint Pierre 57, and again, the period goes after the parentheses. So, this is a direct quotation. This is a paraphrase, meaning I put it in my own words, but they both came from that source as well. And that's basically how you do it. One other thing that might be helpful to know would be sometimes you read a source, it's important, it's useful, but you don't, you want to put in the gist or the main point of the article, but you don't have any specific quote you want to use, so you wind up writing a summary. So you might say something like, Robert St. Pierre spent engineering Hofstra University, spent a year tutoring engineering students in writing. He found that engineers and English majors don't understand each other very well, and that if students from both backgrounds and attempt to learn each other's cultures, both would benefit. Which is a summary of the main finding of the article as a whole. And so, but I didn't quote it. There's not a single direct quote from that article in there, even though I summarized the whole thing. So I'm literally summarizing the whole thing. So I start on page 56, article ends on 66. So I put 57 through 66 because I've summarized the whole article as well. So, and that's how you handle sources. Direct quote, white, and this is a paraphrase. That's two phrases put together, it's a paraphrase. Sorry, that was bad even for me. I apologize for that. I should hang my head in shame. And this is a summary. Now, the other part, of course, we remember is the works cited. And I have my data here that I can give you the complete works cited as well. I don't have it, but you got to make sure you put that in the works cited as well. I don't have the information to show you, or I would do it. And basically, that's what I wanted to show you. When do you quote? I'm sorry. First, if you got an idea from a source, you have to acknowledge it, even if you don't quote from it directly. You quote when you can't say it any better. And you quote just as much as you need. You don't need long quotes, just as much as you need. Paraphrase, put it in your own words when you can say it better than the author. And summary is when you have the entire point of an article and you don't, but you don't quote from it directly as well. I will mention one other thing before I close. I had a hard time paraphrasing rhetorical features and identities, so probably direct quoting was a better choice because I literally couldn't say it better than the author did. So that's an example where you would quote directly. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing more of your writing. Thanks.